Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to analyze the Draper-Alcaraz semifinal match at the 2025 Indian Wells Masters 1000. And you know what I find fascinating is the fact that Sinner is off the tour. And this is an opportunity for Zverev and Alcaraz to gain ground. And not only is this not happening, but Alcaraz actually lost points because he won Indian Wells last year and he lost to Draper. And of course, there are more opportunities next week in Miami. Then, of course, the clay court season, Monte Carlo, Madrid, even a tournament in Barcelona that Alcaraz usually plays, are still going to be opportunities to gain confidence and points and get an advantage over Sinner. But right now, it's not happening. And I'm wondering what Sinner is thinking about all this. I think he's sitting pretty, waiting to return to the tour. But let's get into the match between Draper and Alcaraz. And prior to the match starting, there was a super interesting statistic displayed on TV. And it was the shot quality comparison between Draper and Alcaraz. And all strokes except the backhand featured a higher shot quality from Draper compared to Alcaraz. And I thought this is a perfect example of a scenario where statistics can be misleading because some things in tennis are not caught by statistics. And that is the fact that the greatest players find their best tennis not only in the most important stages of matches, but in the most important stages of tournaments. So the fact that Draper played better up to the semifinals compared to Alcaraz, which is quite possibly true. I also think that Draper's level of opponents was maybe a tad higher. Draper beat Fonseca, Brooksby, who took out Aliassime. He beat Shelton and Fritz, really tough opponents. And I'm not saying that Alcaraz's road to the semifinals was easy by any means. He beat tough opponents such as Shapovalov, Dimitrov, and Cerundolo. But you can make the argument that Draper faced tougher competition and therefore played better. Despite the statistics showing an advantage to Draper in shot quality, I thought that Alcaraz was going to find his best level because we're in the semifinals of a Masters 1000, a tournament that Alcaraz loves. And interestingly, last year in the semifinals where Alcaraz faced Sinner, at this stage of the season, Sinner was on absolute fire. He had just won the Davis Cup, the Australian Open in Rotterdam, and Alcaraz had been struggling for a while. And this was one of the best matches from Alcaraz from a tactical standpoint that I've ever seen. I'm talking about the 2024 semifinals against Sinner. He beat Sinner that match, won the final against Medvedev. And in my mind, I thought we're going to see something similar in the semifinal match against Draper. But we saw something very different. And a few days ago, I covered the Djokovic-Van de Zandschulp match. And Djokovic played one of the worst first sets that I've ever seen from him. And Alcaraz said, "Hold my beer," because that first set from Carlos Alcaraz was possibly the worst set that I've ever seen from him. He was pretty much missing everything, but he was also blasting the ball recklessly. And he lost that first set 6-1 in 20 minutes or so. And I always listen to the post-match press conference, and there's a lot to learn when you listen to the players. And interestingly, Alcaraz was very forthcoming in his emotional state prior to the match. And he said that he was extremely nervous the entire day, waiting to play Draper. Of course, he had beaten Draper 3 times previously, but he had lost to him at Queens right after he won the French Open last year. Alcaraz also said that he was very nervous in the warm-up. He was making a lot of mistakes in the warm-up, and the nerves stayed with him through the entirety of the first set. And while it is completely understandable that players of all levels face an incredible amount of pressure, this is what fans often don't take into account. These players are exposed to a tremendous amount of pressure and it's tough. I'm going to share a story about Boris Becker, and I'm not revealing anything that Boris didn't reveal himself. But Boris used to drink whiskey to put himself to sleep. He could not deal with the pressure, and I'm talking about Boris Becker in his prime. So these guys do not have an easy life. Don't get it twisted. It's not easy to be a professional tennis player, especially not easy to be a professional tennis player with the caliber of Carlos Alcaraz and with the expectations that are on his shoulders. But he had a long talk with Juan Carlos Ferrero prior to the match when he was warming up on his bike. And when you are feeling nerves, what is the thing that you should do? Well, it's extend the rallies, stay in the points as long as possible. So I just do not understand the tactics in that first set, because Carlos Alcaraz not only was blasting the ball, but he was also rushing in between points. So he made some mistakes that he can learn from. He didn't extend the rallies. He didn't maybe take pace off his first serve and get the first serve in. He didn't give himself more time between the points. He played possibly the worst set of his career, and he admitted that in the post-match conference. But Carlos Alcaraz is Carlos Alcaraz. I'm going to keep repeating this. He's only 21 years old, and he's only going to get better. Carlos Alcaraz is working very hard on his game, and he's taken his emotional state into account, and he's going to work on it, and he's going to improve. And not only is Alcaraz working on his mental game, but he's also continuing to tinker with his technique and optimize it. I saw that Alcaraz changed his technique a little bit on the back end. I didn't make a video about this because it was a cosmetic change. He still has a next gen two-handed backhand. He did change the position of his racket head on the backswing slightly. Now it's a little bit lower. Before it was a little bit higher. He also changed his serve again. I made two videos on the Alcaraz serve changes, one prior to the French Open in 2024. I made one prior to the Australian Open this year. And I'm here reporting to you that Carlos Alcaraz has changed his serve again. This time it's a small cosmetic change, so the lag is a little bit more abbreviated, but still the serve has improved tremendously from a technical standpoint. If you watched my Alcaraz serve changes videos, you know that I talk about the fact that Alcaraz had a late coil on his serve, and he's improved that late coiling action tremendously. He's more continuous now around the trophy face, and the serve is improving. However, there is still a problem on the Alcaraz serve because the stats on his serve really haven't improved that much. And last year, I made a very interesting video about the Tsitsipas serve. This video did not get a lot of views, but I highly recommend that you check this video out. I'm going to link it in the end screen because it relates very much to the Alcaraz serve. So some players have kick serve characteristics on their flat serves. And not only on the flat, this can also apply to the slice serve. Now it gets a little bit more complicated when we're talking about the slice serve, and I got a very interesting video coming out on the Opelka serve regarding the slice. This video is already available on intuitivetennis.com. There's a link in the description. You can become an Intuitive Tennis premium member with a free trial. But in any case, these kick serve characteristics on the flat serve mostly are problematic in a sense where players will toss the ball too far to their left if they happen to be right-handed. So what naturally happens when you execute a flat serve and the ball is, let's say, at 11 o'clock, is that at the moment of contact, the body has to bend more than it normally does. And then naturally, when players land in the court, they will lose their balance for a brief moment. And this is definitely not the case on the kick serve. So on the kick serve, because the biomechanics are different, you can comfortably throw that ball to 11 o'clock as a right-hander and not lose your balance. And this is something that I've been seeing on the Alcaraz serve for a while. It's more the case on his deuce serve compared to his ad serve, but it's definitely another area of his serve that can improve quite a bit. And I think once he improves his toss, the serve numbers are going to improve as well. Now, we talked about Carlos being nervous in that first set, and he shook off the nerves. Now, Carlos said that Draper didn't play a good match either in the post-match press conference, and I tend to agree with that. I think Draper's level wasn't at his absolute highest because Draper played a poor second set that Carlos Alcaraz won 6-0. And at this moment in time, I thought, okay, Alcaraz is going to run away with this match. He held serve in the first game of the third set. At this point, he had won 7 games in a row. But Draper checked himself and regained his intensity, regained his level, and held his serve in a very important game and tied the score at 1-all. And here's where it got a little bit controversial. It was 15-all. Alcaraz hit one of his trademark drop shots. I think Alcaraz has the best forehand drop shot in tennis history. And Draper ran up to this ball and got it off of 1 bounce. Now, the umpire intervened and said it was 2 bounces. The umpire had intervened prior to Alcaraz getting to the ball and playing it. Now, the umpire checked in the video replay what exactly happened, and he realized that he was wrong. Draper got that ball off of 1 bounce. It was not 2 bounces. He then, interestingly, gave the point to Draper, and now it was 15-30 on the Alcaraz serve. So the umpire made 2 horrendous calls at once. And did this have an effect on the outcome of the match? Alcaraz said that it didn't. He also didn't argue with the umpire. Alcaraz is a class act and displays great sportsmanship at all times. But I do think that this particular call did have an effect on the match because Alcaraz proceeded to lose his serve. And now it was 2-1 Draper serving. And to me, Draper has one of the simplest and most effective service motions on tour. And I am planning to make a full-length video on the Draper serve because there's a lot that we can all learn from the Draper serve. Now, of course, Draper is lefty. That is a huge advantage. And Draper also does something that I tell all lefties to do, which is develop a slice serve. And if you watched this match yesterday, the amount of times that Alcaraz was returning on the ad side from outside the doubles alley, it was ridiculous. And it is such an incredible advantage, despite the fact that Alcaraz can come up with some winners here and there from outside the court. Still, the entire court is open for Draper. And people often ask me, why is it an advantage for a lefty to have a slice serve when they play against righties? Don't righties have that same slice serve advantage when they play against the lefty? Yes, they do. But you have to take some things into consideration. So first of all, there are not that many lefties. So most right-handers play against right-handers. Most left-handers play against right-handers. So when a lefty plays a righty, this is what they do all day, every day. When a righty plays a lefty, this is not what they do all day, every day, and it is different, and it can throw some players off. Also, when a lefty attempts a slice serve out wide, he's going to have the important points with that serve, which is going to be add in, add out, 30-40, 40-30, while the righty serving that slice serve on the deuce side to a lefty's backhand is going to have that serve when the score is 30-all, deuce, and so on. But it goes deeper than that. When you are not used to playing lefties, and then you face one, the ball is spinning from a different direction. So you might be really comfortable returning a slice serve from a right-handed player. And some of the comfort lies in the fact that generally a slice serve is going to go into your forehand from a right-handed player. And now you're facing a lefty that you don't face all the time on tour. And that lefty slices a serve, and now the ball is spinning from a different direction that you're not used to, and it's also going to your backhand. And it is for that reason that the lefty slice serve is one of the greatest weapons that lefties have against right-handers. So now that Alcaraz was down a break to Draper, who's one of the best servers on tour, he was in a lot of trouble. Now, Alcaraz was playing better, and he was trying to get the crowd into the match. But Draper showed that he belongs in the top 10 and that he's capable of doing big things in the world of tennis. Not only did he hold serve and went up 4-2 in that third set, but he played an amazing return game up 4-2 with Alcaraz serving. This game lasted close to 10 minutes and Draper ended up breaking Alcaraz again. Now, he was exhausted from this long game, ended up losing his serve at 5-2, and Alcaraz did play a very good return game. Alcaraz followed that up with a very good serve game, and I thought that Alcaraz was going to give himself chances to break again and tie the score at 5-all. But Draper showed how much of a baller he is, and he served the match out phenomenally again with an incredible slice serve up 30-15. Alcaraz returned it almost at the line's judge chair, and Draper takes out Alcaraz in the semifinals of Indian Wells. An unbelievable result. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch Rune against Medvedev, so I can't really comment on it, but it's going to be a super interesting final between Draper and Rune. I don't want to make any predictions because I didn't watch enough of Rune this week, but I'm happy to see that Rune is playing better and he's now in another Masters 1000 final. I'm going to catch up on some of those matches. I'm going to watch the final, and I'm also going to talk about some of the things that happened on the women's draw and a big Monday morning rant that's going to come out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that.